Hello and welcome to Moments in History. I'm Linda Shenton Matchett, author, speaker, and history geek. During my research, I often unearth intriguing and little-known facts about World War II that I love to share. Today, I'm talking about the rescue of Norwegians' gold. When your country is in danger of being overrun and occupied by the enemy, what do you do to safeguard the national treasury? You send it out of the country. And that's exactly what Norway did in anticipation of the German invasion during World War II. In 1940, Norway's treasury consisted of 50 tons of gold worth 240 million kroner, which is the equivalent of $54.5 million. Today, that same money would be worth $2 billion. On April 9, 1940, the Norwegian government received word that a patrol boat, Pole 3, had been attacked and enemy ships were approaching Oslo. The authorities anticipated the invasion and had already packed the gold in over 1,500 crates, weighing a total of 53 tons, which equals 106,000 pounds. That is certainly a lot of gold. Countrymen pulled together and the crates were loaded into 26 civilian trucks, the last of which left Oslo a mere hours before the Wehrmacht arrived. The gold remained in Lillehammer for a few days, but needed to be moved again because of the German advance. It was loaded onto a train and left the station on April 19th. After an uneventful trip under cover of darkness, it arrived in Endels the following morning, where British expeditionary troops had landed a few days earlier. Knowing the town had been secured by the Allies, it was bombed several times by the Germans, but fortunately the train was undamaged. The Brits were told about the gold and agreed to spirit it away to England. A plan was hatched, and it was decided the treasure would be split between three ships. I can only imagine the fear of entrusting the country's livelihood to a journey of more than 500 miles over enemy-infested waters. The first ship, the British cruiser HMS Galatea, departed on April 25th with 25 crates in its hold. Successful, the ship arrived along with the Norwegian officials in Scotland, where the gold was again put on trains and carried to London and the Bank of England. But 34 tons of gold still remained in Norway awaiting transport. It had to stay out of Nazi hands. So the remaining crates were unloaded from the train and put onto two trucks. But the Luftwaffe continued to attack. Soldiers and drivers ran for cover in the 45-minute strafing. After the German Air Force left the convoy resumed its journey. But it wasn't long before another attack commenced. Fortunately, it was unsuccessful, and the trucks reached the ferry crossing. But because of the weight of the trucks, the ferry could only carry two at a time, and it took 6 hours to convey all the trucks to the other side. But the stress of moving the gold continued. The roads were full of deep ruts and potholes as a result of the winter weather, and had to be repaired before the convoy could even pass. Trucks broken down had to be replaced, forcing men to unload and load the crates. After one truck got caught in a ditch, local farmers used their horses and equipment to pull it back onto the road. Finally, the convoy arrived at the port of Molde, where King Haakon and Crown Prince Olav were hiding. The gold was once again unloaded and put into a vault in the basement of a clothing factory located in the town. But the Germans were intent on capturing or killing the royal family and members of the Norwegian government. So the Luftwaffe attacked, this time with bombs and incendiaries. The British cruiser HMS Glasgow was able to get through to Molde, and the plans were made to evacuate. The gold was once again loaded back onto any available truck and sent to the harbor. But the bombing made it difficult to travel through the destruction. A fire broke out on the dock, forcing some of the gold to be put into smaller ships in other locations and then loaded on Glasgow by crane. When the ship was finally fully loaded, the king, prince, members of the Norwegian government, as well as French, Danish, and British embassy members, climbed aboard with British soldiers. First stopping in Tromsø in northern Norway, the ship then continued on to Scotland, where the gold was again loaded onto trucks and moved to London and the Bank of England. But there were still at least 18 tons of gold remaining in molding. So Frederick Hasland, the man in charge of safeguarding the gold, used a steamer to move the remaining crates. However, the Germans continued to attack, and the ship was beached. Realizing the ship was too big a target, Hasland called for help from fishermen, and the gold was located on fishing boats. They sailed through the fjords, but were unable to make it all the way to Tromsø, so the gold was once again unloaded and reloaded onto different boats. Finally, on May the 9th, the new boats arrived in Tromsø, where they waited until the British cruiser HMS Enterprise arrived. Using a zigzag course, the ship dodged continuous attacks and safely made it to Plymouth, where for the last time the gold was located on a train and sent to London, where it was deposited into the Bank of England. Ultimately, the gold was sent across the Atlantic to the Federal Reserve Bank in New York and the Bank of Canada in Ottawa. Not a single bar was lost during the entire escapade. Thank you for stopping by this moment in history. If you have any stories or information about Norway and its traveling treasury during World War II that you'd like to share, put them in the comments section of the video. But as always, keep it clean. And if you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe so you never miss another one. And you can find me across social media on Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, and of course my website and blog, which is located at www.lindashentonmatchett.com. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time on Moments in History.